For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
At the tour schedule that you had on your Facebook page there, and I was like, oh wow, I'm going pretty far, really quick.
Yeah, it's fun. I like doing it just day after day. You know, you can get a lot of stuff done in not a whole lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna go ahead and we just kind of roll into it, but
Okay.
I'm sitting here with Xaris Waltman. You're from Florida, but you currently live in Pittsburgh, Kansas, correct?
That is correct. Yep, I was born and raised in North Florida, Pensacola, Florida, and I currently live in Pittsburgh, Kansas.
Awesome. And how'd you go from Florida to Pittsburgh, Kansas?
A lot of things brought me there. I was living in Mississippi, northern Mississippi, right under Memphis, before I moved to Kansas. But my boyfriend lives in Pittsburgh. He grew up there, so we just thought it would be a good central place for us both to stay, because he's a musician too, and we both tour a lot, and it's really central, so we like it there. Yeah.
And that's who you're currently touring with right now, is your boyfriend? And his band?
I'm on tour with him. Yep. I'm singing some songs with him every other night. I will sing a song with him, but I'm mostly just hanging out and enjoying it until I go on tour for myself.
And you guys are in St. Louis. How's St. Louis been treating you so far?
Yes, we are in St. Louis right now. I'm sitting outside of the venue, and it's kind of chilly, but I'm enjoying the cold weather. I grew up in Florida, so I hadn't really experienced winter really until I moved to the Midwest. So it's cool to experience that.
Gotcha. And where are you guys head? Are you leaving them from St. Louis, or how far? Where are you headed next?
So I'll be with them until the 8th, and then Julian and I have some duo shows down in South Alabama and in North Florida, starting on the 9th of March. So we'll be doing that from like the 9th to the 15th, I believe. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then we'll be going back to Pittsburgh for a little while. Gotcha.
So what really got you into music?
That's a very large question. Let me think.
Who inspired you to pick up your first instrument? Let's start.
That's a good one. My dad, he sang me and my little sister a bedtime song every night before we'd go to sleep. And he knew those 4 chords on guitar. It was G, D, E minor, and C. And when I was about 8 years old, I asked him if he'd teach me those chords that he knew. And so he pretty much got me into playing music in the first place.
And who are some of your inspirations that you draw inspiration?
Yeah, let me think. I love Doc Watson. He's a big one for me. Joan Baez is another big one. Peter, Paul, and Mary was like the first folk group that I ever heard, so they're definitely a big one as well. And I also like a lot of country music, like Connie Smith and Emmylou Harris and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. I was listening to some of your music periodically from when we first met up until now.
Yeah.
Your music does have a very old-timey feel.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where that necessarily came from in my development as a musician, but I always really enjoyed history growing up, and I love the fact that these stories and songs have, a life of their own and a story of their own. So that's a big thing for me, and I find storytelling mostly in those older songs. So I think that's why I gravitated towards, old time music and folk music in general.
Gotcha. It definitely had I also picked up like little hints of like bluegrass. It seemed very bluegrassy as well.
I do like bluegrass music. I listen to it quite a bit. It's just roots music in general. I find a lot of inspiration in.
Gotcha. And so do you play anything other than guitar, or?
I have messed around on quite a few instruments, growing up, but right now guitar is my main instrument that I play. I used to play harmonica a lot more in shows, and I think I will start doing that a little bit more soon because I miss doing it. But I just, put on like the Bob Dylan harmonica holder and play my guitar at the same time. And yeah, I definitely like doing that. And I am working on clawhammer banjo right now. I got a banjo endorsement this last year from Carver Banjos, and he makes beautiful handmade banjos. So I'm really thankful to be able to, teach myself that and to have an awesome banjo to be doing that on.
Sweet. One thing that I was reading that really interested me, and I'd like to spend the next few minutes talking about it. On your website, it mentioned that once you graduated high school, you just kind of hit the road touring by yourself.
I did, yeah. I sure did.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
No, I said go ahead. I was going to say something, but I want you to finish your thought.
I got you. Yeah, I did do that. I grew up homeschooled, so a lot of my time in high school as well was playing music, and my parents would go with me when I was, younger, and we'd go places and I'd play music for people. So right after I graduated, I just decided I'm going to do that, and I booked this tour, like quote unquote tour.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of money, but I had a good time, and I thanked a lot of people. So it was real fun. I spent that whole summer doing that, and yeah, it was just a great experience. It kind of got me into the groove of, going back and forth from city to city and playing music for people.
Gotcha. Because there's a lot of young musicians that reach out to myself and a couple of the guys that are in Live and Amplified and ask about what they should do after high school, like really young musicians. And almost every time I tell them to do that same exact thing. It's like, you're a solo musician, you're 18 with very little responsibility at this point. Take the summer, hit the road.
I agree. Yeah. Some people say you just need to move to Nashville and, do it there. But I think that's kind of the worst way to start because it's been such a, flooded population of really good musicians. Yep. So if you just go from city to city and meet people that way, I think that's the way to do it.
Yep. Hit up the open mics, hit up, whatever you can. And so I'm glad to see somebody's made a name for themselves doing exactly that.
Thank you. I thought it was all I could do. So that's what I always try to do.
What was one of the things you learned while you were on that quote unquote tour?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. That's a question. I don't know if there was any one specific thing that I necessarily learned, but maybe being in the moment while you're on stage, that's definitely a big one for me, and connecting with my audience. That's a thing that I'm still working on, and I think I will continue to work on forever, because you can never do it enough, but just connecting with an audience and relaying what you're trying to relay in the correct way that you want it to be relayed.
Gotcha. Let's go jump. Well, it's not really jumping ahead a little bit, but you've released an album and you're working on releasing your first full-length album, correct?
I have released a full-length album. I released it last year. It's an album of old traditional songs that I released with. Okay. Yeah, I released it with Big Tone Records. Last year.
This is what you're working on to release this year was your first full-length album with original music?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what that is.
Okay, yeah. Good. So what was let's start with the Under the Willow, which was the Old Times Songs record.
Yeah.
What was kind of the process when you were when you came up with that idea? What sparked the idea?
Yeah, so I love old time music and just old songs in general. And I love America and how America came to be, all the different people that came together to make, this beautiful country that we're living in. Mm-hmm. So I like to be able to keep those memories alive with the music that, was the song of America being made. And so I took some of my favorite old time songs, and some of them are not as old as some of the other ones, but I kind of made them my own, and some of them I did a little more like the traditional versions. And I got some good friends to record these songs with me up in Bristol, Virginia with Big Tone Records. And yeah, we had a great time doing it. We did it all in, I believe it was 2 days. We did it about in 6 hours each day. It was all recorded analog, so we just do it one time and it would go to tape. So I really liked that, and I think that's a very authentic way of recording.
Yeah.
And I was thankful to be able, to do it.
That's awesome. And even to get to record analog, that's not very many people even know how to record analog, let alone, getting the opportunity to record analog.
Yeah, Big Tone's awesome. They're super cool. I'm really thankful to be working with them.
And then, so how did releasing that album prepare you for what you're currently working on in the album you're getting ready to release?
Yeah, so the album that I've written is, I wouldn't say like super big difference, but it's definitely different. These songs that I've written, I find most of my inspiration in people. So a lot of these songs are about different people that I've met or come across in my life and that have struck me in some sort of way that I guess other people don't. And I decided to write some songs about them. So I'm really excited to finally get into a studio and record it and get it out into people's ears.
Perfect. One thing I actually really wanted to talk about is we have a mutual acquaintance, which I found out, Jed Clark, who did the Acousticult interview.
Oh, yeah.
We met in January at a bluegrass festival.
That's cool. Which one?
The Baygrass Bluegrass Festival in the Florida Keys.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
super cool.
He handed me his card, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, Acousticult." And then shortly after that, you posted the article, and I was like, "Wait a minute." Dug the card out, and I was like, "Oh, this is the exact same thing. That's funny."
It's a small world with us musicians, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very cool.
I just had to share that, so it was interesting to me.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm glad you did.
Nice. So what's one thing you want people to know about your music? Like, for people that have never seen your show or heard you play, what's one thing you want people to know about your music?
I think that I'm about storytelling. That's my biggest thing. I've kind of mentioned it earlier on, but I love telling stories, new stories, keeping old stories alive. just getting into your brain and making you imagine. So when you come to one of my shows or listen to my albums, I think that is what you'll experience most of. It's just hearing a story from start to finish.
Gotcha. And when you were working on this new album, what was kind of your creative process like? How did you decide what you're going to write about? Do you usually have the lyrics first, or the melody, or what's your creative process like?
It changes every time for me. Some of these songs I have had with me for quite a while now. This is just kind of a project that I'm taking from songs that I've written when I was maybe 13 years old that have definitely changed throughout the years. But, the bass was written back then, to songs that I've written, a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. So it's kind of just almost the growth of me as a person, and kind of the difference of how I've seen the world back then and how I see the world now. And yeah, that's basically it.
Wonderful. So how did you go about selecting songs for this album? Did you already have stuff written, or did you write specifically for the album?
It's been a little bit of both. There are some songs that are going to be on the album that have been with me for a while, like I was saying. But there are some songs that I sat down and I was thinking, I'm trying to get this album out eventually, and I think this would be a good song to be on the album. Gotcha. And I can't really just sit down and write a song unless inspiration has struck me. So, take that with a grain of salt for sure.
Yeah. Gotcha. And you'd mentioned that you and your boyfriend have a duo project. Is there like a huge difference in the style of music between your solo project, his other project, and your duo project, or?
It's not a whole super big difference. He plays mostly traditional bluegrass music, okay, and I do more of the folky side of things. So it's definitely a nice coming together. I bring the more old-timey thing to it, and he's an incredible flat picker and singer, so it's real fun getting to play music with him.
Nice. And nice little different change of pace for you and stuff.
For sure, yeah. It's really fun.
Nice. But one of the things that you brought to my attention when we initially made contact was the Pickin' on Picnic in Missouri there. It happens in July, I believe?
Yes, it happens in July of this year.
And how long, or is this something you've been involved with for a while, or will this be your first year going?
This will be my third year going. I went the first year just to go, and then last year I played a songwriters round, and this year my trio is going to be playing. So I've been involved for about 3 years now, and I know the people putting it on, and they're great folks. Yeah, it's a real fun festival.
Nice. What's kind of the, like, is it like, what's the vibe of the festival? What makes it different than other festivals you've played?
I love this festival because it's super family friendly. You see a lot of kids running around during the daytime, and it's on a river, so people swim in the river, and there's music until like 3 a.m, and there's jamming going around all of the camps where people are camping, and it's just a real fun time of being together and enjoying music.
Gotcha. When you're not playing music, what do you do? What do you like to do for fun? What gets you relieves stress, all that stuff? What do you do for fun?
Yeah, I love history, like I was saying. Mm-hmm. I like learning about history. I watch the History Channel quite a bit. I like listening to podcasts. I really enjoy ghost stories. Sometimes when I go to different towns, I try to find, the quote unquote haunted place and
Nice.
go and see what's up there. So I enjoy, fun stuff like that.
I can get you, since you're in St. Louis and not far, there's a town called Prairie du Rocher.
Okay.
It's like a little southern Illinois town. My buddy's mom runs a haunted house there. Like during the holidays or during Halloween, it's like they do it like a traditional haunted house to bring the kids through, scare them, all that fun stuff. But there is the historical house that's on the property is actually haunted.
Wow.
And they've had like paranormal people come out, and so if you're ever in like Southern Illinois, I will have to get you in contact with the right people.
I would love that. That sounds super fun. I'm down for stuff like that.
Actually, when we get done with this interview, I will send you a picture my buddy's mom sent me about 6 years ago. It is a ghost of a little boy riding a tricycle in the front yard.
Oh my goodness. Place. That's wild. I'm ready to see that. That's exciting.
Yeah. And so, like, before I went to college, not that I didn't believe in ghosts, but I was a skeptic. They took me to this place, and I was like, okay.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Super crazy.
So what kind of piqued your interest in history? Like,
I don't know. I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to say, who got you into history? Was it like a school thing, or?
It wasn't necessarily a school thing. It's just always piqued my interest. I don't know exactly why that is, but everywhere I go, I like to know, the history of things. I think if we don't know our history, we don't really know who we are. And yeah, that's a big thing for me. Gotcha. When I go to a different place, I can almost kind of feel, the vibes of the place. That sounds weird, but what the place has been through and the people, I think that is a lasting thing. So that's kind of what has piqued my interest in history, and knowing that it was just people back then and it's just people now, and it's just people living their lives. There's something about that is really comforting.
Yeah. Wonderful. And so when you go out on tour, do you make it a point to stop at different historical places?
I definitely try to, yeah. I was in Illinois one time, and I went to Abraham Lincoln's home. That was last summer, and I enjoyed that. And yeah, I definitely try and see things when I can, when I'm not running like a chicken with its head cut off.
Yep. The being from Illinois, the Lincoln Homestead was definitely a popular place that my family and I would go.
That's awesome.
Luckily for me, that was one thing that my parents instilled in me, was a fondness of history. So, like, instead of, like, whenever we'd go on vacation, we'd go do the fun stuff, but we'd also we'd go camping in Kentucky. And one of the days we would go to one of the old time homesteads or something to that effect. So
yeah, that's beautiful. That's a great thing for parents to, instill in their children. And yeah, my parents definitely did that, with my mom teaching me and my dad teaching me, because I was homeschooled. They definitely made it a point to, teach history and know where we came from.
And so, yeah, I agree with you. It's a very good thing that we should know our history, because if we don't know our history, we're doomed to repeat it.
It's true. Very true.
But one thing we really like doing, or we're trying to do with this podcast, with Live and Amplified, is we're trying to cultivate the next generation of young musicians, make sure that they understand the realities of the music business and make sure they're getting into it for the right reasons, make sure that they absolutely love it and they weren't sold like a bill of goods of, oh, if you get into music, you'll make $1 million, stuff of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
So we really want to try and cultivate musicians and make sure they're dreaming, but they understand, like, hey, this is the reality of the situation. So
Definitely.
That being said, my question is, what advice do you have for younger musicians?
Yeah. Well, I had to say you hear no a lot, and I think that's a good thing. It makes you strong. With every 100 no's you get one yes. And you're going to hear no a lot, but sometimes those no's don't really matter at all because the one yes you get is something that's, you're either really going to enjoy or it's really going to help you along the way. And I'm only 19 years old, so I've been doing this since I was about 12 years old. But, it's still new. I'm still young and I'm still figuring everything out, but taking it day by day and just believing in the music that you're making and knowing that it's what you're supposed to be doing is what's going to keep you going.
And just to kind of hone in, since you did bring it up that you're still a very young woman doing the music scene, what do you have to say to that 12-year-old girl that's just starting to play piano or just starting to play the guitar? Like, I don't, just if you have something a little bit different that you'd say to them.
Yeah, I just say keep it up and, focus on what you want to be doing and don't let other influences, distract you. If you like something and it's not necessarily cool, I promise you there's some place where it is cool. So keep doing that.
Understood. Absolutely perfect way to say it. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh man, that's a big one. I think being true to, what I want to do and, in music and just as a person, that's what I try to do. My parents always said I was very hard-headed growing up, and they would tell me that as a good thing. So I think being hard-headed is a good thing if, you're stuck on doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes perfect sense. What's the independent music scene like in Pittsburgh, Kansas?
I'm not really sure. I'm actually not. I've played one show in Pittsburgh, and I don't really play shows.
Okay, so
there.
You're more touring out. You tour out to do your shows, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just a good place to live. It's a sweet little town.
Nice. What do you like about Pittsburgh, Kansas?
It's sleepy, but it definitely has its things going for it. We've got like 3 coffee shops and just really kind and genuine people. And, you can get into the rural part of it pretty often and pretty quickly, but you can also find people if you need some people time, you know what I mean?
Yep, understood completely. So I take it music's a full-time thing for you at this point in your life?
It sure is, yep. Been doing it full-time. I quit my job that summer before I went on that first tour and haven't worked since. Been playing music full-time and it's pretty awesome. It's the best job.
How are you able to keep everything going? Or I guess I want you to kind of reiterate how do you keep everything going? Like since this is your sole income, is it a little nerve-wracking that like, oh, the show canceled and that's how I'm planning on paying this month's electric bill or whatever,
Totally. I think, it's definitely a little less stable than some things could be. But, you know, I think music is a labor of love, and, you know, you got to do what you got to do. So I just keep working. I have someone that helps me book shows. I have an agent, so she'll help me do that. And then I send emails on top of that myself. And, you know, I'll play a show and then end up doing that that same night, send an email. So it's just a continuous thing, managing myself and, you know, performing. It gets tiresome, but it's worth it. And I know it won't always be this way. So
yeah, perfect. So you're sitting in St. Louis right now. Are you actually playing tonight, or is tonight one of your nights off?
Tonight is one of my nights off. I am hanging out tonight.
Awesome.
I've been seeing all my friends that are playing tonight keep walking by. So if I sounded distracted partially, that could have been why I was like waving at people. But I'm having a great time talking to you. Thank you for doing this.
I appreciate you giving us the time.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to jeopardize all your time because, like you said, you got friends that are around and all that stuff. So I won't keep you too much longer. But
no, you're totally good. I'm ready to talk.
Awesome. One thing I've been trying to help people understand is the importance of mental health with musicians. Because, I mean, there's been a lot of, at least from my personal experience, a lot of musicians that I've either worked with or I've met through mutual friends that have passed because they either OD'd on drugs because they were going through some mental things. How do you kind of keep yourself mentally healthy, although you're making yourself very open and vulnerable on a nightly basis? What?
Definitely. I that's definitely my number one priority. Last year I had to cancel a run of tours because I wasn't doing so well mentally, and you know that always comes first. Because if you don't have your mental stability and being okay, you can't do anything for anybody else. So that just has to come first.
Yes. And does it make it easier having a boyfriend that is also a touring artist?
I think so. We definitely relate in that way, and it's been nice being able, like I said, to relate in that way. We understand what the other is going through for sure.
And you use each other as like well, obviously you're a support system, but if one of you is going through a bad moment, you can always count on each other. Definitely.
And I have a lot of musician friends as well, and we're there for each other in that sense as well.
What would you say to a musician that's maybe going through something right now and feels like they can't talk to anybody?
You know, take time for yourself and find, even if it's one person that you know cares about you, because there's at least one person in the world that cares about you. And go to them. It may be awkward or weird, but tell them what's up, and, you know, they're going to be there for you.
Okay. Perfect. That's absolutely wonderful. And just to kind of hammer it home at this point, what's one thing you wish you knew starting out or what's one thing you know now that you wish you knew starting out in the music industry?
I'd say that it's not always going to be easy, because I definitely don't want to make it seem like it is always easy. You know, it's like anything else. There's its ups and its downs. And sometimes looking at it from someone who's not in it all the time, you think, oh, that's awesome. You just go to a venue every night, sing for people, you know, get paid, go to sleep. It's not like that. There's so much more. There's so much more to it. And yeah, I think that's the number one thing, but it's so worth it in the end. You know, I've met some of my best friends and, you know, greatest people that love me because of music, and it's just really awesome. I've got to meet a bunch of amazing people and connect with a bunch of beautiful people because of music, and I'm really thankful for it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, and I just really hope that we'll kind of move on from this after this, but I just really hope somebody takes everything you just said to heart, and hopefully it'll either help pull them out of a funk and help them realize it's not just them, that every musician goes through this, and, just they can keep on pushing through and everything will be all right.
Definitely. You just got to keep on going. So, yeah, I'm happy that you brought that up.
Another thing that I noticed on your website is that you have a nice long list of prestigious places that you've played, whether it be festivals or venues. What's one place that you haven't played yet that you'd really like to?
Oh man, I'd love to play the Newport Folk Festival. That's a big one that's been on my radar since I was about 10 years old. Peter, Paul, and Mary, which was one of the bands that got me into folk music, they played that, and then a bunch of other people that I look up to, like Gillian Welch, she's played it. So many people. I'd love to play the Newport Folk Festival someday, hopefully soon. That's the number one for sure.
Have you ever attended as a fan, or the
I have not. No? I would like to, though.
Cool. Is there like a specific city or state that you haven't played yet that you'd like to?
I have not played in Oregon or Washington State. I'd like to play in either of those states.
What is it about?
That would be fun.
What is it about those two states?
Just the Pacific Northwest in general, I find very intriguing. I have never been up that far on that side of the country, and I think that's why it's intriguing. Things that you don't know always seem to pique your interest. So yeah. That's why I think.
Understood. Perfect. And you mentioned Big Tone Records a lot. How have they helped move your career along? Like, yeah.
They are just really genuine, awesome people who support young roots musicians that they believe in. And I, am just so thankful to have them as friends and, have them as a record label, because without them, I probably wouldn't have an album out at this point, because money is a big thing in a young musician's life, and they helped me put that album out, financially backed it and everything. So they have done a lot for me, and I'm super thankful for it.
Nice. Yeah. That's very cool that you found a label that is willing to help you like that, because not everybody gets that opportunity, and I'm glad you're taking advantage of it and building yourself upon it, and not letting it I don't want to say go to your head, but letting it destroy you, I guess, is what.
For sure. Yeah, all you can do is take every open door, is what I've been kind of realizing, and, see where it goes. And if you come up on another closed door, you turn back around and there's going to be another open one. So that's what kind of led me to them.
Nice. And so, like you said, you've been playing since age 12, correct?
Yeah, I've been playing guitar and writing songs since I was about 8 years old, but playing out when I was about 12.
Okay. And you were featured on the 50th anniversary of Eddie's Attic Songwriters shout out. What's that all about?
Yes, that was really fun. They do kind of like a songwriters competition type thing, and if you win that, then you go on to like their shootout.
Okay.
Which is all the winners come together and play. and it was their 50th anniversary one, and Julian was backing me up that day, and we ended up getting second place, which was really cool. And we looked it up, and I don't know if you know Tyler Childers, but I'm a real big fan of his, but he played that too, and he got first place, so he beat me. But I thought it was cool that he was playing that, and that's also what we played. Nice. And look at what he's doing now. So You never know. The world is a crazy place. Things happen.
Exactly. Who do you look up to, or outside of the old-timey traditional folk music, who are some other musicians that you draw, like maybe somebody more modern or somebody outside of what your current genre? Who do you draw inspiration from?
I really love Carole King.
Okay.
She is a big one that I grew up listening to. So she is one of those for sure. And I'd say she has to be one of the number one ones. I also love, like I was saying, Connie Smith. She's a big inspiration for me. She did classic country music. But yeah, Connie Smith and Carole King are two big ones for me. I also love the Bee Gees.
Okay. That was a little bit different. I wasn't expecting the Bee Gees.
I sure do love them though. Yeah, they're great. They bring a lot of energy with their music, and their songs were written really good.
Nice.
Also Bread, if you've ever heard of Bread.
No, I don't think I have.
They were a band from the 70s, and they just did a bunch of 70s really cheesy pop songs that I really enjoyed. They're well written.
Awesome. We kind of talked about this at the beginning, but what keeps you going as a musician?
Yeah, my family is a big one. They support what I'm doing, which is really awesome. They're a big one for sure. My boyfriend's a big one. And just knowing that even if not many people like my music, having 5 people that enjoy what I'm doing or are getting something that might change a little part of them out of what I'm doing, that's enough for me. I've played shows with a lot of people there, and then I've played shows that maybe 10 or 15 people show up, and it's the same to me if a heart gets touched by what I'm doing.
Beautiful. Do you have a release date yet for your new album, or is it still very... It's
still up in the air.
Okay.
It's hopefully by the end of the year sometime, but it's hard to know exactly. I want it to be perfect before, it gets out.
Gotcha. And will we hear your boyfriend on it at all, or will it be strictly solo?
There's going to be a band behind it. I think Julian's playing mandolin on it, so okay. We'll be ready for that. Yeah. Nice.
And how will the album differ from your live shows? Obviously, I'm assuming that you don't usually tour around with a full band.
Yeah, I don't tour around with a full band normally. This year, I'm starting to play more band shows. Most of my festival dates are with my band, which is exciting. It's a trio of all girls. There's a banjo player named Grace Stormont, and she's from Arkansas, and a fiddle player named Edith, and she is from Joplin, Missouri. And I'm really thankful to be working with these girls. They're just really incredible musicians and people in general. So we'll be doing that more this year, but it's mostly just me and Julian.
Perfect. So I'll get to hear the trio at Pickin' on Picnic?
Yes, you sure will.
Perfect. That's awesome.
We will be there.
And it's you on guitar, and then what do the other two play?
Yeah, so we have Grace on banjo, and Edith on fiddle, and me on guitar.
Okay, perfect. I always love a good fiddle player.
Me too.
I was never exposed to the fiddle or the violin ever. And the first time I ever went to a bluegrass show and I heard a fiddle player, I was like, all right, that might be my favorite instrument right now.
I think it's my favorite instrument. It's like it sings. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Actually, one of the first bluegrass bands we ever worked with, it was two fiddle players. That's all it was the two fiddle players. And it was just like,
wow.
Oh, this is the most amazing thing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
cool.
So we've talked a lot about what you've done and what you're currently working on, but what's your vision for the future?
That changes every day. I'm going to take it day by day and, do what I can every day and just kind of see where I end up. That's what I have been doing, and I think I'm going to continue to do. So there's not a huge vision except for continue to play music that I love and write songs that I love and play music with people that I respect and enjoy what they're doing.
Perfect. And hopefully get the album out by the end of the year. And yeah,
hopefully so.
Nice. Perfect. Well, I don't want to hog up too much more of your time because time's very valuable to me. And I want to respect everybody's time, so I won't hog up much more of your time. So we've talked about your tour schedule already, but where can people go to see what you're up to, the update on the album, upcoming shows, all that stuff?
Yeah, so the best way to do that is my website. It's www.xariswaltman.com, xariswaltman.com. That has, my tour dates and my music on there, video links, all that good stuff. And then I also have Facebook and Instagram, which is just Xaris Waltman on there, and you should be able to find my pages for that and keep up with me in that way if you do that.
Nice. I want to ask you one last question. It's going to be a rather vague question, and I phrase it this way specifically to give you free reign to take it wherever you want to take it.
Okay.
But why music?
Why music? Music means more to me than pretty much everything besides my family. I think music is one of the strongest things in this world and in this universe. So that's why music for me.
Wonderful.
You can't escape it, so why not, devote your whole life to it?
Yep. And it's such a universal language. I say it almost every interview. Like, music is such a universal language. Everybody can understand it. And it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So true.
So, but I want to thank you for giving me your time, giving us your time.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. I wish you good luck on the rest of this leg of the tour and then your future tour dates. Hope you guys have great shows and amazing audiences and great turnouts,
Thank you so much. I appreciate that quite a bit. And thanks for having me. And I'm excited about Live and Amplified and what y'all are doing. I think it's really awesome. So happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And I'm glad we got a chance to get you on. I know we're talking through the Picking on Picnic time frame, trying to come up that way. But
hope y'all can make that.
Yeah, I'm shooting to be there. I don't know how much of my team's going to be able to make it just because they've all started new jobs and all that fun stuff. So I don't want to jeopardize their financial well-beings just to hit, so at worst it'll be just, but Sorry about that. So once again, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. Xaris Waltman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And I will thank you, everybody, and we will see you guys later.